After the death of a god, anger was unleashed upon the world, causing chaos and disorder. Since the red moon appeared, countless people have turned into lunatics. A disease called mind pollution quickly spread and infected all living things, causing them to mutate and change. Humanity was only able to survive under strong protection of the Great Wall. The male protagonist, without any ability, is the only one who miraculously remained unaffected by the disease. He sealed away his painful memories and grew up like a normal person, but had 3 invisible family members with incredible abilities. In battles, he could borrow abilities from his family members. His father is the embodiment of fear, easily angered and loves to fight. His mother is a master of death and has a pair of scissors that can cut logic. His younger sister, known as 17. She has cider class ability, has a fondness for toys, and even has a fetish for turning humans into playthings. Since the arrival of the Red Moon, this man, who is closest to God, has been working in Shingang, leading a 9-to-5 life, but fortunately, there is a light called family that illuminates his life. Father, who never goes out and likes to stay at home to cook, is chopping up those that seem to be remains of humans and uses them as ingredients in his cooking. 17 obediently sits on the sofa, watches cartoons, and keeps asking why her brother hasn't come back yet. When Lu Xing comes home from work, he buys his sister her favorite toy, a little bear. 17 is overjoyed and jumps up, hugging the bear. Just then mother hung up the call from a neighbor, and she asked Lu Xing to play with his sister first. She had a small disagreement with the neighbor and is going to apologize to her. She picks up her scissors and walks out to the neighbor's house. Soon after, the little bear is torn apart by his sister and roughly sewn back together. At dinner, his sister proudly shows off her work, highly satisfied with the result of her makeshift repair. Father came out from the kitchen. Suddenly, a noisy police siren is heard outside, and father becomes angry and yells at them from their apartment window. 17 clings to Lu Xing's clothes in fear. Lu Xing's mother returned from apologizing to their neighbor, but was inexplicably covered in blood. She told Lu Xing's father to stop talking nonsense in front of the children, but he became angry and started yelling about how everyone, including her, should die. That's right, in your eyes, everyone deserves to die, only you don't deserve to die. Because everyone else is living a better life than you, only you live like a cockroach rummaging through the sewers. But do you know, even if they all die, you still won't. Before she can finish, father stopped her with a slap. Seems like mother hit on something that triggered his deepest fear. Mother is fearless and calls him a mad and incompetent fool, useless. Father could no longer continue his rage and responded by growing in size. You dare to call me useless? I'm going to slaughter you. Seeing this, 17 cowering in the corner, suddenly laughed, finding the chaos amusing. Fun, very fun. She tore the little bear in half and began to climb up the wall rapidly, still laughing. It truly is so much fun. Meanwhile, Lu Xing calmly sat beside the chaos, as if this was a normal occurrence, slowly eating the rice in his bowl. Across the building, a mysterious organization is monitoring his every move. Despite the fact that only Lu Xing is in the room, multiple sets of actions seem to be taking place simultaneously. Suddenly, data detected the appearance of Psychic Mutation Observer Subject 13's psychic power. A mysterious man behind them asks the short-haired woman if he has the potential to be recruited, how much of a potential threat he poses, and what specific abilities he has. The woman still can't see his true nature. Unlike others, he doesn't exhibit a strong mutant form in the early stages. He appears normal, can go to work every day, and even handle his job well. However, his mental state occasionally becomes disordered. He sounds very promising and easy to guide. Have you tried having a dream weaver enter his dream for an evaluation? The woman deeply exhales smoke and says yes, but that dream weaver never came out after entering his dream. The next day, Lu Xing arrived at the company for work as usual. He was enthusiastic about teaching the new employee how to work when suddenly the director called him to the office. The director got straight to the point and asked Lu Xing to deliver the document to the cafe at the street corner. Lu Xing wondered, shouldn't be an administrative or miscellaneous department task? Why the director specifically sought me out? He sensed that something was off about the director's behavior that day. As he was leaving, he noticed a woman sitting on the couch in the office. Her presence gave him a strange feeling, and when their eyes met, he was startled. He quickly agreed to deliver the document and left. After Lu Xing left, the director smiled and tried to be flirtatious with the women. Leader Chen, the matter you mentioned had been taken care of, about the project. The woman interrupted him directly before he can finish speaking and assuring him that he would not receive the project. The girl took off her sunglasses and slowly stood up. The director was taken aback and thought he had misheard her. Suddenly, the woman leaned over the desk, her eyes fixed on the director, and said, "Don't remember that I've been here, and don't remember me assigning you any work." Her pupils seemed to be rotating and faintly turning red. The director was instantly confused, his mind repeatedly replaying the woman's words. Then, the woman put on her sunglasses, turned around, and left. The director came back to his senses, but had already forgotten what had happened, as if nothing has occurred. In no time, Lu Xing arrived at the Huancheng high-speed railway station, and his sister was secretly crawling along the roof of the train car, appeared in front of him. She was still holding the patchwork teddy bear in her arms and was hanging upside down, swaying. The movement of the train car was felt by everyone inside, but fortunately, the train was moving fast, so the swaying was not too noticeable. "Brother, don't you want to play with me? It's really fun." "I can't play with you outside. I can't even talk to you. People will think I'm crazy," Lu Xing explained. Annoyed, 17 mischievously stuck out her tongue at her brother, and then leaned in to whisper in his ear to be careful. There is something wrong with where they were going this time. After saying that, she burst into wild laughter and continued to climb away, even pinching the cheek of a sleeping fat man along the way. After getting off the train, Lu Xing realized that the place was already close to a high wall. He arrived at the cafe on the street corner, but there was no one around. He didn't know why by standing there, he had a sense of oppression. At that moment, he had no idea that he was being monitored. In a high-rise building in the distance, a reconnaissance team was reporting to their superiors that Subject 13 had entered the target area. The area around the high-rise building was concealed by fully armed soldiers, who were hidden in the shadows. On the other side, a person was holding a file about the cafe on the street corner. Everything was arranged by the short-haired woman in order to test Lu Xing's potential and specific abilities. The cafe that Lu Xing was supposed to go to had already been confirmed as a level 1 psyche corruption area. Anyone who entered the cafe would die within 3 to 5 days, most commonly by suicide. She put down the file and asked the person next to her, "Is the backup team ready?" Group leader reporting support member Dali is ready to start at any moment. A girl wearing a delicately crafted Western dress like a puppet was sitting beside the window. She is the backup team member Dali. Lu Xing had already entered the cafe. He didn't expect it to be crowded inside while outside it was cold and deserted. He went to the counter and handed over the document to a server. The server didn't say anything and just smiled, pouring a cup of coffee for Lu Xing. Lu Xing was about to refuse, but he was inexplicably attracted to the fragrance of the coffee. It did nothing like the cheap coffee he had at the company. Just as he picked up the coffee to take a sip, he heard a faint hissing sound in his ear. Lu Xing was suddenly jolted awake, and, as he looked up at the waiter once more, he saw a thick, unsightly tentacle extending from behind him. The tentacle slowly reached towards Lu Xing and its head gradually split open. A red eyeball dropped into his coffee cup. Lu Xing lowered his head to inspect the creature when suddenly it opened its eyes and stared back at him. The coffee in his hand instantly became even more fragrant, emitting an overwhelming allure. Fortunately, Lu Xing quickly regained his senses and realized the danger, or else the consequences could have been disastrous. The waiter beside him smiled even more warmly, urging Lu Xing to try the drink quickly. As Lu Xing gazed at the unsightly tentacles, he forced himself to remain composed, thinking to himself, "I cannot allow him to discover that I can see these things. Thank you for your hospitality, but no," he politely declined, turning to leave. As he approached the exit, his heart raced uncontrollably. Curious, he glanced back and suddenly realized that the entire restaurant had fallen silent, staring at him with blank expressions frozen on their faces. Without hesitation, Lu Xing sprinted away, fear urging him on. Upon seeing this scene, all the observers on the buildings in the distance were left dumbfounded, unable to believe that he had just left like that. Under normal circumstances, when a psychic mutant with boundless potential arrives, there would typically trigger a violent conflict. They had prepared 3 contingency plans in advance, but this situation was not anticipated. The woman with short hair immediately ordered further testing to come up with a 4th contingency plan right away. Lu Xing ran all the way to the subway station, relieved to find it empty except for a lone security guard dozing off. He felt as if he had narrowly escaped a disaster, finally leaving that place behind. As he reflected on the strange people he had seen at the coffee shop, he couldn't help but wonder what had caused their eerie behavior. It turned out that 17 had known all along, which was why she had warned him on the high-speed train. With this realization in mind, Lu Xing decided to seek answers from his family when he returned home that night. Perhaps they knew something about the situation. Just then, people began to trickle into the once empty subway station, slowly making their way toward Lu Xing's location. Lu Xing began to realize that something was amiss as more and more people approached him. Upon closer inspection, he realized that these were the same people from the coffee shop he had visited earlier. How could they have followed him here? As he scanned the crowd, he caught sight of a familiar figure, the waiter from the coffee shop, holding out Lu Xing's untouched cup of coffee. "You haven't finished your coffee," he said slowly, still wearing his signature smile. Lu Xing attempted to turn and run, but the crowd closed in on him, step by step, blocking his escape. The waiter persisted, urging him to drink his coffee quickly before it became cold. Lu Xing quickly explained that he didn't have any money to pay for it. "You can't afford it?" the waiter responded. "No problem, I'll treat you." Suddenly, the eyeball inside the coffee cup bounced out and flew toward Lu Xing's mouth. He tried to evade it but was tightly restrained by one of the people nearby. The mysterious organization monitored the scene through surveillance screens. "What's going on? Why does he look no different from an ordinary person?" someone asked. As the associates nearby sought instructions on whether or not to intervene and end the test, the woman with short hair glanced at the doll beside her and agreed to provide support. The doll received the support order and slowly stood up with an umbrella in hand. Suddenly, the device displayed a dramatic shift in the data. Lu Xing's mouth was pried open by force, and in that moment of crisis, he heard laughter coming from nearby. He turned to see his little sister lying against the subway signboard. 17, help me!" he cried out desperately as the eyeball drew closer to his mouth. As he felt despair closing in on him, a small, icy hand suddenly gripped his own. In an instant, Lu Xing began to change. His eyes, now a brilliant crimson, opened wide. For the first time, he ignored his sister's cold demeanor and looked at those who wished to harm him, now feeling as though they were his prey. "Brother, you need to buy me the best toy. It's a promise." Of a sudden, things took an eerie turn. Lu Xing broke free from the control and charged into the crowd. His little sister was exhilarated, shouting, "Faster, faster, brother! Let's have more fun!" In a flash, his body accelerated, moving so quickly that it was almost impossible to follow. With such precise body control, he's a spider type. The mysterious organization watched this scene from the surveillance cameras and was left with their jaws hanging open in surprise. The devices were still conducting tests, and the speed initial estimate was above 50%. Upon seeing this data, the organization was both amazed and pleased, realizing that his potential might even surpass that of the lizard of the team. However, suddenly the device began to emit violent fluctuations. As Lu Xing's agile form dodged the incoming tentacles, the waiter watched in amazement at his incredible speed. Though the smile on his face grew increasingly sinister, as he shouted that there was no escaping from him. Suddenly, a myriad of tentacles erupted from his back and quickly flew toward Lu Xing. However, no matter how fast and terrifying the tentacles were, Lu Xing defied the laws of physics and dodged them one by one. In a matter of seconds, he arrived at the subway exit. The surveillance team had already seen Lu Xing run out, and the short-haired woman breathed a sigh of relief, feeling relieved that it was over. Turning to the doll next to her, she ordered to prepare to wrap things up. But just then, one of the personnel in front of the screen looked surprised and exclaimed, "Wait, there is something wrong!" The people in the office all stared in shock at what was unfolding before them on the screen. Lu Xing was supposed to make his escape from the subway station, but instead, he leaned back against the platform and beckoned with his finger to the oncoming mutation, almost as if he were taunting it. The situation had already exceeded the expectations of the mysterious organization, for in this world, there were only a handful of places or people that could trap someone with the agility of spider type. They couldn't comprehend why Lu Xing, faced with those monsters, didn't immediately flee but instead turned to challenge them. The short-haired woman had a hunch that this time, Subject 13, Lu Xing, was different. Actually, Lu Xing's instinct was to escape, but his little sister held him back. "Why are you so scared, brother?" she asked, teasingly beckoning to the waiter with her fingers. It should have been him who was afraid. The waiter saw that Lu Xing didn't run away but instead turned to provoke him. He smiled and gradually twisted his face. His body slowly tore apart and turned into thick, monstrous tentacles. Each tentacle opened its large mouth, revealing sharp teeth. However, 17 was only more excited. Look how cute they are! I want to play with them! 17 pulled Lu Xing and charged directly toward the monster. At this moment, the device indicated that the mental strength fluctuation had reached the maximum value. The observer shouted in a low voice. A first spiritual level monster has appeared! He urgently asked the leader if they should go to support him. The short-haired woman couldn't make a decision for a moment. According to common sense, spider type wouldn't be able to deal with such a spiritual monster without standardized weapons. However, he didn't hesitate to charge toward the monster. Under the fierce attack of the waiter's dangerous tentacles, Lu Xing easily dodged every blow and rushed to the side of the waiter. He grabbed the waiter's arm and gently turned it. In the next second, it burst into pieces, and the waiter screamed in pain while his arm fell to the ground. Looking at the arm in Lu Xing's hand, his little sister laughed hysterically and said, "Took it off!" At the same time, the surveillance cameras in the subway station were completely destroyed by an invisible psychic force, and the screens went blank, leaving them with no real-time visual information from the scene. The short-haired woman immediately ordered action and everyone tensed up and started moving. Meanwhile, Lu Xing appeared exceptionally excited, showing no fear and playing with the situation like a cat toying with a mouse. "Is it fun to lose one hand?" he asked, laughing maniacally. The monster suddenly became angry and embarrassed. Its dense tentacles attacked him. But as Lu Xing slowly raised his hand, the huge tentacles were torn like thin paper. The brother and sister became even more excited. Not enough, still not enough. At this moment, they only wanted to tear this monster apart. The number of tentacles on the monster's body was decreasing, and soon, the ground was covered with blood stains. The monster was unable to resist, and only had a deep sense of fear now. It turned its head hurriedly and ran towards the exit, but this only made Lu Xing more excited. "Haha, now it's my turn to chase you. Can you escape from me in terms of speed?" Lu Xing casually pulled out a slender steel pipe from the wall, and jumped down from a height towards the monster. He fiercely inserted the pipe down, and the monster's body was suddenly pierced and directly nailed to the ground. Lu Xing stood in place admiring its roar and struggle, saying, "Is that all you got? I haven't had enough fun yet." Due to the extreme fear, all of the monster's tentacles straightened down simultaneously, and suddenly there was a loud snap. A burst of bloody mist exploded in all directions, enveloping the people who had just come out of the coffee shop. The crowd suddenly woke up from their dream and fled in all directions. Lu Xing's expression was still fanatic and excited. "You still want to run?" He quickly flew towards the crowd. "Haha, caught you!" With a slight twist of his arm, he wiped the person's neck directly, then quickly rushed towards other figures that were running away. "None of you can escape!" With indescribable speed, he quickly dealt with all the creatures in the field. The scene was left in ruins. He still wasn't satisfied. "There's no one here that can put up a fight." There was a slight movement in the quiet subway station, but it was captured by the agile Lu Xing. He quickly turned his head and saw an old security guard hiding in the security booth, looking at him in horror. Unfortunately for the old security guard, he made a noise that caught Lu Xing's attention. "Oh, there's someone else here!" he exclaimed excitedly, and instantly rushed to the front of the security booth. With his arm aimed at the old security guard's head, the old security guard was so scared that he didn't dare to look straight. However, the expected attack did not come. Lu Xing suddenly grabbed his sister and loudly told her that it was enough and to stop. His sister was still in an excited state and wanted to continue to attack. "Enough, 17. I didn't stop you earlier because the situation was critical. If we don't act together, we could be killed. Those in the cafe aren't human, so it doesn't matter if you killed them. But this security guard is just an ordinary person. You can't go on like this. Can you understand what I'm saying?" Feeling that Lu Xing was very angry, she immediately became obedient. She hugged Lu Xing and asked him not to be angry. "I'm also protecting you, aren't I? Look how fierce and scary those monsters are." Lu Xing stroked her little head. "We can escape if it's scary." But 17 interrupted him before he could finish. Okay, don't nag anymore. Those people are coming. Let's go," she said, holding Lu Xing's hand and dragging her toy bear out of the subway station. Just then, a doll-like girl with an umbrella arrived, floating in the air, followed by a short-haired girl riding a motorcycle who rushed in. Lu Xing, who was being observed, was not seen at the scene, only fragments of corpses and the waiter nailed to the ground. The girl looked frightened. The mutant entity has been eliminated. How did he do it? She wondered. The two arrived at a high-rise building. Brother, how do you plan to thank me? The girl asked. Lu Xing, who was still shaken from earlier events, was annoyed. Thank you? I should be hitting you for, he said, but stopped himself as he remembered how dangerous it was just moments ago. He calmed himself down and quietly said, Thank you? His sister looked at him expectantly. You can still buy me toys, she said, hugging her teddy bear. The teddy bear can't scream. I want one that can scream, the more miserable the better. Lu Xing suddenly had an idea and thought of a screaming chicken toy. His sister was not impressed and fell silent for a moment. You're the best at changing the subject. I don't want to play with you anymore, she said, hugging her bear and preparing to leave. As she stood on a power line, she turned around and smiled at Lu Xing, warning, Be careful, brother. Someone is watching you.